Call to order the August 2023 meeting of the Sycamore Township Zoning Commission. My name is Roger Friedman, the chairman. Mr. Meese, if you would take the roll call.
Sure. Ms. Flanagan.
Present.
Mr. Barrett. Present. Mr. Friedman.
Present.
Mr. Roos.
Present.
Mr. Swanson.
Present.
Okay. Good. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes from the July 10th, 2023 meeting. We have the minutes in hand, but I believe there may be some additions to that. Rich?
Next, no, the only
Exception from
changes were the ones that Jeff had proposed as far as the conditions that we did approve. They weren't part of the minutes.
Right.
He was suggesting we add them to the minutes.
Okay. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So I will move that we approve the minutes with the additional conditions noted as part of that.
And Rich, you had sent those to Jeff, correct?
I had some other ones I sent to Jeff. so.
That's on something else.
Okay.
And that would be for the minutes of July 10th, 23.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second, any other changes or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. We'll sign off on those later on. The only matter tonight that I'm aware of is case number 2023-06MA. The applicant is KMK Law for property located at 7700 to 7724 Montgomery Road, known as the Shops at Kenwood. It's a major adjustment to a PUD. I know that there are a lot of people here tonight who are interested in this matter, and kind of the procedure we're going to follow is Mr. Ucotter, who is the zoning administrator, is going to give us an update on what the application is about and some of the issues that are before us. The applicant would then be given an opportunity to comment on this and have any clarifications to what may have been said by Mr. Ucotter. And then anyone who is in the audience who wishes to speak either in favor of the application or in opposition to it, or any comments about the application, will be given an opportunity to speak. We would ask everyone who is going to speak on the matter to come up to the podium that's by the hanging microphone, give us your name and whatever you want to say. We don't want to cut anyone off from having the ability or the opportunity to speak. I would ask, though, if you are going to make a comment about the application and several people before you have said the same thing, if you would simply indicate that you're in favor of what they have said, so we're not repeating the same kind of dialogue over and over. But with that said, anyone who has who wants the opportunity to speak will be given the opportunity to speak tonight. So with that, Mr. Ucotter, if you would bring us up to date on what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The case is 2023-06MA. It's the subject property is the Shops at Kenwood at an address range from 7700 to 7724 Montgomery Road. Again, the applicant is KMK Law on behalf of Atlanta-based RCG Cincinnati. They're the property owner. And the current zoning is a EE plan retail district. The request is a major adjustment to a PUD. The original case dates back to 2000. It was case 2000-01Z. Kind of the proposed use, or kind of the major proposal for the case. It's a major amendment to the PUD. The proposed start time is 5:30 a.m. And then there was originally an allowance, or a request for an allowance for rear entry business entrances for customers, and other major changes to the approved conditions from case 2000-01Z. The surrounding conditions to the north, it's EE planned retail and OO planned office. To the south, behind the development, it's B2 single family. To the east, that's B single family and O office, and to the west, it's C single family and O office. The PUD characteristics, it's about a little over 9.5 acres, about 825 feet of road frontage on Montgomery Road. So for the background of the case, this case originated from a resident's complaint in January of 2023. The Shops of Kenwood adjoin sensitive residential uses to the south, east, and west, and is governed, as I mentioned, by a PUD from cases of 2000-01Z. There's the case 2000-10MA, which was another major adjustment case, and case 2009-10MA, which kind of governs some changes of with GFS back in 2009. Many of the conditions from case 2000-01Z, 2000-10MA, and 2009-10MA were designed to create harmony between the adjoining incompatible uses, which is the retail, the single family, and multifamily residential. So for the case origins, after a resident complained, it was found that the CrossFit studio, homegrown strength and conditioning, commenced operations illegally without zoning certificates at 7712 Montgomery Road, Cincinnati, Ohio 45236. The customer entrance to this newly created 4,745 square foot business suite, again, without township approval, is behind the building. As you can see here, the kind of the suite is yellow on the sheet there. Presumably, homegrown strength conditioning was made noticeable to the neighboring residents to the level of increased activity behind the building, such as early start times before the approved PUD's approval business start period of 7 a.m. The accumulation of cheater directional signs placed illegally throughout the parking lot, and that's listed in the report there, and illegal signage erected on the back of the building. To date, in effect, the zoning violations are being held in abeyance. Staff has elected to hold off, for this case. Conversation started with the property owner back on February 7th, 2023. Related to the CrossFit Studio PUD violations, in case 2000-01Z, there's a condition that no commercial use shall maintain 24-day service or operate during the hours of 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. The CrossFit Studio, currently operating without an approved zoning certificate, opens at 5:30 a.m. The business violates condition 13 of the underlying PUD, which restricts commercial business uses from operating between the hours of 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. A breakfast restaurant at the site, 6 in the morning, also opens up at 6 a.m. Spanning the years 2020 into 2021, the breakfast restaurant was issued multiple zoning certificates for the business, a revision to the zoning certificate, a temporary banner, and a sign permit. As will be seen later in the conditions, staff will essentially recommend an opening of 6 a.m. due to the fact that zoning certificates were issued for this business that already opens at 6. Condition 15, that there shall be no music, public dress system, or other exterior noise audible from the exterior of the building at any time. The CrossFit Studio's business model is to have various classes, which brings in multiple waves of clients to work out. This activity in the rear of the building is not in the spirit of the approved 2000s era PUD that governs the site. The resulting activity, such as headlights at 5:30 a.m., waves of classes, the starting of vehicles, the closing of doors, causes disharmony with the adjoining residential uses. As seen in the picture to the right, staff did find the rear garage door to the CrossFit Studio. It's been open. Related to the door being open, during the week of June 26th, the Sycamore Township Administrator Tracy Kellums fielded a call from a concerned resident related to the noise emanating from the open garage door. Noise emanating from the business violates condition 15, the underlying PUD is mentioned. The other issue is that the framers did not intend for the rear customer access to come in from the back of the building. There's just a few points on that. The rear entry business space has never been used for business, presumably because of its hard to access location in the rear of the building. From a 2007 tenant space map, it was produced 2007. It was labeled as mechanical. So although not written as a condition in the original 2000-01Z report, it was kind of an unwritten rule that kind of has been understood to date, as I mentioned, that there's never been a business in this space. 2, historically, there have never been approved signs directing customers to the rear of the building. Further, no reasonable customer would drive behind the building complex, as all the business offerings are oriented towards Montgomery Road, and there is no indication that there's a rear entry business except for the above noted illegal directional signs. In case 2000-01Z, the approved PUD provides for inviting front entry customer elevations. No inviting customer elevations were considered for the rear of the building because the framers of the PUD did not consider the rear customer entrance. And 4 relates to parking. Essentially, there's not enough parking in the rear of the space. There are other PUD violations from 2000-01Z that staff wanted to note. Some are related to property maintenance. I would note that this case is not about property maintenance. It's about the PUD, but some of the property maintenance and some of the other elements of kind of add to the mosaic of the case. Condition 5, that the assembled lots for the development are to be combined to eliminate setback and use violations. Currently there are 8 parcels that make up this PUD, and they were never consolidated. The applicant does propose to consolidate it into 3 separate parcels, 2 which are owned by the Shops at Kenwood, and then 1 which is owned by Fifth Third. Condition 12, that a filtering system shall be specified and maintained to prevent the exterior. Sorry. Condition 12 requires a filtering system that should be specified and maintained to prevent the exterior venting of odors for restaurant uses. Staff interprets that this condition is to mean that grease-laden odors should not be detected if a sufficient filtering system is in place. Staff has observed the smell of odors emanating from restaurants. On June 25th, staff stood behind Buffalo Wild Wings and did observe these odors. Related to condition 21, that an 8-foot solid fence shall extend along the west, south, and east residential property lines to the new development and adjacent to the proposed detention basin. Fence is to be erected to the developer side of the designated buffer strip and to the residents or having to have direct access. There is a 8-foot fence around the detention basin, but behind the building along the southern elevation, there's only a 6-foot fence. So there's, if you read that condition, it reads like 8. The other issue is unscreened dumpsters, and this was a factor that staff really worked with the applicant on. In the rear of the site, dumpsters can be seen on year-to-year aerials sited in the rear of the complex in an unorderly site arrangement. In the rear of the property, dumpsters are double stacked. In some years, dumpsters appear. In other years, dumpsters are moved. They're just disorderly. Related to GFS from case 2009-10 MA, there's a requirement that the dumpsters, be closed. This was because of condition because they had, in some photos that you might have seen, they've had an open face dumpster with rotting food, but the trash compactor was broken, so they had to replace that. That was fixed. Behind GFS, there is an accumulation of cardboard that they keep out there. If you read through the 2009-10 MA case, you can kind of deduce that that cardboard that's sitting out there shouldn't be back there in view, that it should be screened. There was a dumpster behind, kind of go down. So we go up a little. So with box 3, there's a dumpster right behind Buffalo Wild Wings, and that's right behind the building. It's about 17 feet from a property line. There is the third, with case 2000-10 MA, there's a 30-foot rule from property lines, but that case might not relate to this dumpster because is as you go north in the building. I think that was labeled building 3 or building 4. That condition for the 30 feet was for the building 2, which is down where this box 2 is. But that dumpster kind of has had a history of having a lot of trash around it, as you can see in the photos in the report, and it's really close to residential. In terms of box 4, currently there's a trash compactor up there to the north. There's a proposed grease trap that's proposed for there. That's a potential location. Currently, the grease trap is where you see these red boxes to the property line. If you go to the west, box 2, that's where they propose to relocate a lot of the dumpsters shown here with the red boxes. There is a proposal to have a grease trap in box 2 as a potential area, but there's a no restaurant provision in the code, and that grease trap is an accessory to the restaurant, so that might be problematic. Box 1, there's a dumpster currently located without a dumpster enclosure. This dumpster has appeared since 2007, and it's not within a masonry enclosure. Box 6, that's currently GFS's trash compactor, and that is screened behind a masonry wall. Box 7, there's a masonry enclosure where dumpsters were not located. You might have seen pictures of, in fact, a lot of the dumpsters, it was either empty or dumpsters were outside of the dumpster enclosure, but there's dumpsters now in there, but that is a masonry enclosure. And then box 5, that's just a dumpster with a one-sided screen to the west. Related to all of these dumpster areas, box 7 is already enclosed, but staff would like to see or proposes a dumpster enclosure around box 5, box 6. Box 1 would be removed. Box 3 is kind of tucked within that building. It's a natural place to put dumpster, but it is rather close to residential, as noted. Condition 30, that a maximum of 3 signs are to be permitted on the new development site. These are just some of the RCG venture available signs that are placed out front. Some of which, like the sign closest to Buffalo Wild Wings, is kind of in disrepair. It just doesn't meet the condition 30. And then related to the landscape plan and review of the landscape plan, there so approximately 26 deciduous trees that are missing, 17 on the Montgomery Road side of the complex and 9 in the rear of the building, and 16 evergreen trees are missing in the rear of the complex near the detention basin. Condition 23 of the 2000-01Z PUD requires the developer to maintain all landscaping on site. Then other zoning and property maintenance violations, outdoor trash and litter. If you've seen pictures in the report, we can. The site has been a lot worse from a outdoor storage, trash and litter perspective, but it's been recently cleaned up, especially in the months of July. So a lot of the trash and litter has been removed. Related to the condition of the facility, the applicant or the property owner has repaired a number of items, such as a number of pavement repairs and some painting. There is evidence on the front and rear of the building of chronic roof issues. So there's a lot of on some of the gutters and flashing and roof areas. There's areas where you can see evidence of water leaking and spalling the concrete. And then finally, there was just there was another unpermitted business that opened without a zoning certificate, just to show the history of the site, but that's been since been issued a zoning certificate. So for a recommendation, 23 years after the approval of the original PUD, which governs the site, staff sees this major adjustment case as a natural time to assess the condition and working order of the PUD. Many of the issues, such as the failing facade and chronic litter noted above, are zoning and property maintenance issues. But I certainly would give the applicant credit. They've fixed a lot of the litter issues. Related to the elements of the PUD, staff recommends the following recommendation to all the parcels of the shops of Kenwood. Number 1, to affirm all the conditions of case 2000-10 MA And we would add case 2009-10 MA, that's the GFS case as noted. These conditions shall remain in full force and effect. All conditions of case 2000-01Z shall remain in full force and effect unless specifically proposed as follows. So a revision to condition 4, that no dumpsters are permitted in the drive aisle of the east access lane. That was part of that original condition. And that all dumpsters shall be set back a minimum of 30 feet from residential property lines. With the caveat that I think it was box 7 behind the original building. There is a dumpster enclosure back there that doesn't meet that 30-foot standard. That's already there, but staff views that as okay. And all dumpsters and cardboard recycling dumpsters and tree straps require to be screened by masonry enclosures in accordance with chapter 10-5 of the Sycamore Township zoning resolution. So this condition kind of melds one of the conditions from the case 2000-10A, that 30-foot rule, and applies it to the whole PUD. Condition 5, all parcels shall be consolidated less the 5th third parcel, as that is not under common ownership. The consolidation must occur prior to the approval of the zoning compliance plan. As mentioned, the applicant is working to consolidate the parcels into 2 separate parcels that they control, and then of course the 5th third parcel, and staff is comfortable with that proposal. Condition 10, to amend condition 10 to be consistent with the 2000-10 MA language that relates to the restaurant uses, and that's located in that box. Further add a condition that no restaurant accessory uses such as grease traps shall be located in that area. Currently, a grease trap is cited in this area where no restaurants are allowed. Condition 11 would repeal condition 11. If you refer to the condition, revised condition 10. Condition 12, this condition shall remain in full force and effect. To satisfy condition 12, the property owner shall provide evidence of the installation of a sufficient odor mitigation system. For all restaurants, the system shall be maintained. The property owner shall provide documentation of the system prior to the approval of the zoning compliance plan. Condition 13, that no business except for and only the out parcel financial institution automated teller machine ATM shall maintain 24-a-day service or operate during the hours of 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. I realized the proposal was for 5:30 a.m. Staff proposes 6 a.m., kind of adhering to the theory of incrementalism. Back in 20 and 21, the township at the time had issued, perhaps erroneously, zoning certificates to the breakfast restaurant to open up at 6 a.m. So that's kind of the standard. And that's kind of as far as staff is comfortable with going at this point. Condition 15, there shall be no music, public address system or other exterior noise source audible from the exterior of the building. No business with building elevations that face residential property shall maintain open doors unless only accepting deliveries. For example, a business with a rear garage door that faces residential property shall leave its garage door closed. Condition 20, it's a repeal of condition 20, see revised condition 21. Condition 21, for the entire development, all parcels, an 8-foot solid wood fence shall extend along the west and south residential property lines. The commercial property owner shall maintain the fencing.
Jeff, just for a moment, you said condition 20 is a repeal of condition 20, C revised condition, and I thought you said 21 a moment ago, but it was actually 23 in your report. I just want to make sure I'm following it.
So condition 20 related to basically white pines, planting them in the back. And
so the revised condition you meant to say a moment ago was C revised condition 23.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So condition 23 relates to the landscape plan. Basically, the proposal is that the developer replace the missing trees as specified. The revised landscaping plan shall be installed by November 30th, 2023, and shall be maintained in healthy condition. If plantings are in unhealthy condition or dead, plantings shall be replaced as specified in the revised landscape plan. New condition 33, the site plan for the development shall be revised to show all masonry dumpster locations consistent with condition 4, condition 5, and applicable regulations specified by the Sycamore Township zoning resolution. This can be kind of melded in with the condition 38, which is proposed at the bottom. A revised site plan showing the location of the dumpsters and other features shall be consistent with this case. The plan shall be finalized prior to the approval of the zoning compliance plan. So 33 and 38 kind of get to the same thing and it can be combined. New condition 34, that all customer entrances and parking locations be maintained on the Montgomery Road side of the building. No customer shall enter from the rear of the building. If a tenant space is rented out in front of another space, effectively blocking the entrance of the tenant space further back in the building, for the tenant space situated further back in the building, it shall be required that a customer access hallway be built to access the Montgomery Road side of the building. Any hallway construction shall be compliant with all applicable fire, building, and zoning regulations. I would note that this condition 34 is very important to the township, just for, with the residential behind. I was back there just today and I did witness there was an orange truck that dropped off. I think that probably a high school or college age kid. I don't know if the fellow worked there or was a kind of a student of the gym, but that dropping off and parking and the access behind the building from non employees is what we're trying to work against, or have them enter from Montgomery Road. New condition 35. No space outside of the development's building shall be used for business purposes other than normal vehicular movements. For example, parking, ingress, and egress. For example, use such as a gym or grocery store shall not move operations outside of the building. So for like a grocery store, no outdoor farmers market, or for a gym, no flipping tires in the back. New condition 36. In speaking to the applicant, they propose a condition that would basically say employee parking behind the building only. I thought that proposal was reasonable, but I decided to keep the staff proposal of this condition present, and we can kind of go from there. But new condition 36, all rear parking at the rear of the building shall be only used for employee parking so as to not disturb nearby residential zone property. No rear employee parking shall occur from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. High reflectivity signs shall be erected at equal intervals, noting no parking between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. Staff shall review the no parking sign plan in the zoning compliance plan phase. And finally, condition 7, no commercial business shall maintain outdoor storage of materials. All waste materials such as cardboard shall be in masonry screened dumpsters located in design designated areas as conditioned by new condition 33. New condition 37 is kind of a rephrasing of what came out of the 2009 -10 MA case related to GFS. In conclusion, really a lot of these conditions relate to the case 2000-01Z. There's one condition related to 2000-10 MA, which related to the dumpsters being 30 feet away from building 2. Related to case 2009-10 MA, which was the GFS case. The condition that related to some of what GFS is doing is number 2, all refuse, garbage, product waste is to be placed in a sealed dumpster. So currently that cardboard, which is sitting outside, is waste that's not in a sealed dumpster. Finally, there was in case related to case 2000-01Z, there was a provision from the resolution that resulted from that case 2000-13. The condition it was section 6. It basically requires that the zoning resolution needs to be followed. I just note that for the masonry dumpster matter, the masonry dumpster rule was passed in 2007. So the staff interpretation is really that any dumpster placed after 2007 requires a masonry dumpster enclosure. So with that, that's all I have. Are there any questions?
I have one. When you first started going over your conditions today, I'm following along with the report that you provided us. And I think I understood you to say that you, number one, you want us to affirm all of the conditions of case 2010 MA as noted in attachment A. And I thought you added and to affirm all the conditions from 2009-10 MA as well.
2009-10 MA, that, add that
Also,
one too,
add
which was
that
a,
one in there.
it was,
And these conditions shall remain in full force and effect.
that's right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure where you intended that.
It was yeah, of case 2000-10A and 2009-10A would be the add there.
Any other questions? Comments?
Got one.
Go ahead.
The dumpster that is located behind Buffalo was my understanding that it's not, it's too close to the residents behind them. Because that's a very narrow alley. And I'm just trying to see where that particular dumpster is sitting.
So here's the dumpster location as of August 3rd. It was much more cleaned up. Let's see, these are photos from earlier in the year, so it's certainly improved. That dumpster is located in the inside of the building,
Okay.
so it certainly does not block that access drive. There's the 30-foot rule that only related to building 2. And I can pull up the, let's pull up the, so you can see. So in that case, building 2 related to this cutout here. Building 3, and I presume there's maybe a building 4 up here, was further up, but that 30-foot rule only noted for this building 2. So as it stands, that dumpster that's in its inset, I don't think violates that 30-foot rule because it's not behind building 2. My only point was there's a history of it, having a lot of trash around it. There's been a big oil spill. There's residential across the way. And so 23 years later, as we're looking at this, my only point is that dumpster is rather close to residential. I would point out in that 2009-10 MA case, in the site plan that's here, the dumpster was not shown to be back there. Nor was it mentioned in the case. So
The dumpsters that you had the picture of, they had like 4 or 5 of them in a row. Are they going to be removed? Are they going to be enclosed?
those dumpsters I'm up here. I have a better. Once. So this is from the applicant. The dumpsters that are back there are right here. They're proposed to be moved in separate places, the majority of which is in this box here, which will be enclosed with masonry. I think there will be a dumpster or 2 added down here. This dumpster here again is already enclosed. Of concern, this dumpster, which is not enclosed with masonry, nor is this dumpster. Again, just to orient you, behind the B-dubs is this dumpster here.
The compactor straight ahead.
There is the compactor here. And just to reiterate, down here is the grease pit, which is a natural place for a grease pit behind the building. It just violates that no restaurant provision, and a grease pit is an accessory to a restaurant. So the other proposal for a grease pit would be here. Currently, the grease pit is sitting here with this red area down here.
Any other questions or comments?
The drawing that has earmarked no restaurant, was that part of the original submission?
That was part certainly of the case 2000-10 MA. I can pull it up here. That'll be wrong one. Oh, not that one. So here's the 2000-10 MA approval. It's in one of these. It's right here. This originated from that case, and that's where that box of text from condition 10 was located, and essentially as part of this case, and interesting enough, from that 2000-10 MA case, that wasn't in the condition sheet for that case. I don't know what happened back then, but it's part of this. Just to streamline everything for this case, basically add this language in the box generally to put it in this case so that someone looking at this 10 years from now, they can say, okay, that condition to 10 affirms the condition from or the intention from case 2000-10 MA, and you can follow it better.
And then, when you're talking about grease pit, you're not talking about something that's in the ground, you're talking above ground.
Let me pull it up here. It's this structure here, this grease box, or yeah.
And then you mentioned consolidation of parcels.
Yes.
So were you intending that there be one parcel of land, or Fifth Third now owns their site, so they would be a separate parcel? RCG intending that they would have two parcels of land or consolidated into one?
Yes, and talking to the folks from RCG, I understand there's some leases involved where they couldn't consolidate everything into one. But their proposal would be this, where they would control two parcels, basically this orange parcel and the blue parcel, and then the Fifth Third parcel would be here. So, that would have to be the three. That would certainly clean up the site from a parcel perspective.
Last question. The new condition 34, that all the customer entrances and parking would maintain Montgomery Road. Is that possible with the way that the space is currently configured?
So
remodel the spaces.
It is possible. So currently this, the gym space or the CrossFit studio, it enters in from behind another space, and this space has never been used. This is from a Houck Holdings, the original owner, the owner before, and it's labeled as mechanical. And I believe it's listed as mechanical. It's so far back, it was hard to rent. So there is a suite in front of it. And so if RCG had ever, or any owner rented out the space in front of it, which would be fine, but the requirement would, as noted in the report, would require a hallway that complies with all, fire regulations to be basically cut. It would make that front space smaller. The other option would be for that, the gym or whatever user would be to rent the whole space, and then you just have a whole continuous suite.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you run through the street signs? I'm a little confused. You said there are some signs out there that are not approved or in excess of what was approved.
I'll just go through Google Street View because it'll just be easier.
And I guess the question, are those leasing signs or are those actual residential signs?
The PUD is written in perhaps a rigid way where it just notes 3 signs. There was a later BZA case that dealt with a Callister's wall sign, but the allowance for the site is essentially what is shown. It's this Fifth Third sign, it's this sign here, and then it's the sign that's down here. As the site, other than, the site there's been some things going on with it, and certainly the property owner has been fixing some things, as part of a comprehensive report, we just put in everything, and I just noted, there's three, other signs that are by the road. There's the second, and then the third.
So those are all leasing signs then, okay,
They're signs
Yeah,
by the road.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. that's all.
But to that point, would they be just considered temporary signage that the applicant would get a separate permit for?
I think those signs in question have been up for some time, and I think they're temporary in nature, but they remain permanent. There is an allowance in portions of the code for some construction type signs. It's not lost on me that the applicant property owner is seeking, they want to rent out space in the building and whatnot. And maybe there's a solution there, but it's certainly, 6 signs that are there when, the PUD says 3 from that original case, the 2000-01Z. Perhaps, maybe a solution is to add another cabinet on that main monument sign or that main sign to have an RCG space so they can, propose they're renting. Maybe the board's comfortable with having some of these signs out there. And if the board is, you could certainly make that condition.
Any other comments or questions, Mr. Cutter? Okay, if there's anyone here for the applicant, if you would come up to the podium, give us your name, your affiliation. Brief comments.
The operative word brief there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. My name is Tom Tippett with the law in Cleveland. I have the pleasure to represent RCG this evening. With me is Randy Garfinkel and Laura Weiss, who will be able to answer some specific questions as it relates to some of the things that are being proposed, some of the things that are agreed to, and some of the practical reasons why some things just are not going to work. I don't know if anybody's ever owned or been involved in a retail shopping center. They're living, breathing things, right? And you have an ownership, but then you also have various other rights within that center, which are tenants, right? And they have certain obligations, duties, and responsibilities imposed upon them. And you expect them to do as much. And sometimes from time to time, you got to check in on them and make sure that things are being done the way they should. We've been talking with Jeff and Larry Barbier for seemingly months and trying to narrow down the issues and try to get what is really driving some of this. This case started as a simple request for you to consider a recommendation to the trustees to alter the hours of operation. You have 6 a.m. Shouldn't be a big surprise to the township that they might open up at 6 o'clock. As Jeff indicated, they were given their permits and they were opened up. You have the CrossFit, who is asking that they be able to operate at 5:30 in the morning. RCG is extremely sensitive to the fact that this property, as the history shows, abuts some residential, for sure. And so I can understand the sensitivity as it relates to the hours of operation there. And Jeff talked about some of these things. You have parking back there, you have all these other things. I mean, I find it very interesting that the township requires a minimum number of parking spaces and approves the location of parking spaces, and is now suggesting that you can't use those parking spaces for whatever reason. It's a little counterintuitive to me. Not quite sure I understand it, but let's just call it what it is. That we believe there are some things that staff is looking at that just simply isn't lawful. But be that as it is, they're willing to work with them. And we've come a long way. As it relates to the hours of operation, the CrossFit would like to open up at 5:30. They have agreed to take the balance of the space. You'll hear this from Randy, that we've agreed to only allow entrance through the front door, to only have employee parking in the rear, to not have the door open in the back, to have no outside activity. So what's the difference between 5:30 and 6? There's going to be no activity back there. Everyone is going to come through the space off of Montgomery Road, caught in that corner. It shouldn't be lost on you, and I hope that it's not, that Terry Bryan across the street opens up at 5 o'clock. And he's not far from residential property either. So just kind of weigh that into your matrix as you're kind of looking at this. There are some things, for example, we'll get into this, the garbage, the dumpsters. They've proposed something here that I think works. It moves it to 30 feet off of the property line down to that area there where you saw that they were highlighted. The one of them that's an issue is the one that's behind the BW3. It's not on the plan that he showed. You know why? Because it's recessed into the building. The building was designed for a dumpster, and it has been there for 23 years. Jeff has done a great job of alerting the ownership group to things that need to change, to some cleanup, and they're doing it, and they're going to continue to do it. So thank you very much. You know, you're only as good as your tenants are, and so we're going to try to make sure that they're doing their obligations. Laura here runs their property management division. She's in constant contact with them. I walked out there with them today. We had conversations, but moving that dumpster from that place where it was designed to be to all the way down to the bottom, I think is going to cause more issues because it's a fairly long walk and water goes to the path of least resistance. They may try to use the one that's closer and that's going to get full really fast. And you're going to have people dragging traffic or garbage all the way down that residential property line, all the way down to that enclosure. The building was designed for it. Respectfully, we think that it should stay. The grease trap, we'd like to move it down to where down to that corner where the other dumpsters are going to be enclosed. I can't get where Jeff is that, you know, receptacle for grease is a restaurant use. To me, I think it's a little too far. Yes, there it says no restaurants and there aren't any restaurants. You know, what these various uses throw away doesn't create that use in that receptacle. It just, to me, it's a little too far. Zoning is the rules of the game. We know what they are. It's not the intent is the framers thought it's 30 feet or it's not. It's whatever the height is or whatever the uses are, zoning lays out the rules so that everyone knows the rules of engagement. So we think that makes most sense to put it down there and locate it with the other ones. Ironically, it's going to be 30 feet off the property line versus, you know, other locations. So the fence, we think that we're compliant. He did a really good job of highlighting some places where it needed to be spruced up. It's being spruced up, or it has been spruced up, and will continue to be spruced up. So thank you very much. We believe that if we comply with the 6 foot and 8 foot requirements for both, if you look at the PUD condition number 22, it says a 6 foot fence along the eastern property line. And I talked to Larry about it today, and we highlighted the condition right above that. If anything, it's inconsistent or it's ambiguous. So we believe that we're compliant with the fence, and we ask that you find the same. Randy will get up and kind of tell you exactly what works, what they're willing to do. I think that most notably is, you know, all access to the CrossFit comes in through the front door. I think that is a huge concession. I don't believe that there would be proper grounds to prohibit somebody from entering into a space that has parking spaces that were approved by the township. That doesn't make sense to me. They're willing to do it. As a compromise, they're trying to look out for their tenant. We've got a lot of people here on behalf of that tenant that train there, that work there. And we think that what's being proposed is a very good compromise. Is anything perfect? No. We believe we comply with a lot of places. And we're told that even though you comply with something, you should probably change it. It's a little bit of a moving target, but I think that we've done a pretty good job of nailing things down over the last month or so. So, Mr. Chairman, my comments were certainly brief, and I will turn it over to Randy if it pleases the chair for him to kind of tell you the whys and the can'ts and the okays. If that's fair.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please. Come up and give us your name and your affiliation.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Randy Garfinkel. I'm with RCG Ventures. My colleague Laura Weiss is here today. I'm the COO and Director of Investments. Laura is our Director of Property Operations, which runs all of our property management. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for all of you being here tonight. We appreciate it. I know there's neighbors, there's people who are customers of CrossFit. I know you're all taking your time to be here tonight, and we certainly appreciate it. So thank you all for being here. I'll try to be brief because I know we're going to go through some of these conditions and I'll give you some feedback on, but a little bit about us. RCG Ventures has been around since 2004. We currently own 33 shopping centers over 19 or 20 states at this time being. Of those, we currently have 5 properties in the state of Ohio. We previously had 4 others, so historically we've had 9 properties in the state, and currently we have 5. What we do, what we focus on is acquiring retail shopping centers throughout the United States. We've got a history of commitment, bettering retail markets we go to. We've got a goal of working with tenants and jurisdictions to make sure we've got a healthy mix of national, regional, and local tenants. We think that they help job creation, they stimulate the local economy, they provide a platform for new entrepreneurs to thrive alongside established brands. It's just good for the community to have different types of tenants. And so, again, I want to thank everybody for being here. So we acquired, a little history, we acquired Shops at Kenwood in 2014. Since that time, we've spent over $1.5 million, property improvements, tenant retention, new leasing, trying to make it a vibrant commercial center that'll benefit not only the tenants, but the community that it serves. During that time, since 2014, we've signed 11 new leases. We've extended 7 tenants that were originally there. Some of those 11 include Discount Fashion Warehouse, Cosmoprof, Club Champion, Children's Hospital, 6 in the Morning, Hyde Park Pediatrics, Homegrown Strength and Conditioning, Diva Eyebrows, Swimville, Unique Soul, Pino's Palette is the next one. And I looked out here and we got at least one of our tenants is being shown on here. So we're excited to have them recently open. So as you can see, we're involved. We want to bring new tenants, not just national tenants, not regional tenants, but local tenants. And that's part of the reason why we're here today. So we applied, with the guidance of Tom, we applied for a PUD amendment to allow for 2 local tenants to operate prior to 7 a.m. 6 in the morning, obtain their zoning certificate, but seek formal acknowledgement to operate at 6 a.m. Homegrown Strength and Conditioning. Again, they're from Kenwood. They're here. Their customers are here locally. They're working closely with the local high school and helping train a number of their students. They're working with the Sycamore to obtain a zoning certificate to require approval to operate at 5:30 a.m. We've spoken to them, and as some of you or many of you may know, people nowadays are getting up earlier. It's the best. It's the health. It can be the healthiest or better part of the day to get up early and go work out. People have to go to jobs. There's traffic, and so 5:30. The tenants communicate to us is very important. And we see across the United States that a lot of these gyms are getting up that early because, frankly, a lot of people want to get up early and go work out. So we think it's a great use. It complements the other uses in the center, and we think it complements the community. Jeff reached out, I think it was in February of this year, and voiced the neighbors' concerns regarding Homegrown opening up at this time. There was some noise in the back. There were people working out. There was cars, and communicated that to us, but also let us know, hey, there's some things here at the shopping center that could be cleaned up. Since that time, I know I've been on 2 calls with Jeff. I've met Jeff on site. And I know our attorneys have met Jeff on site. And so I know there have been consistent communications since February with Jeff as we try to improve it. We have local vendors, of course, we're talking to them. We're sending out notices to tenants to make sure everybody's kind of abiding by the rules and make sure we have a clean property for everybody to enjoy. In addressing, some of the concerns of the neighbors regarding the time of operation, we work with the tenant and we've worked hand in hand with the tenant. They've agreed to take the front part of that space. So originally they were in the rear space. And again, that space has got a loading dock there, right? And so they've not only agreed to rent out the front space to make sure that access is only through the front of Montgomery Road. So I want to say that again. Access is only through the front of Montgomery Road. If they're going to move a piece of equipment, they're going to have to open up the back garage door and move that piece of equipment. I'm sure they'll do it between 7 a.m. and 11. But of course, for their operations, they require to be open at 5:30. So they're incurring costs. We're incurring costs for them to take that front retail space. They've agreed, they and we have agreed to restrict rear entrance and parking. They've also agreed to restrict any kind of conditioning activities to only inside. They're not going to be outside working out. So again, I feel like they are working well with Jeff and myself and hopefully the community. In other operational items, we've agreed to, combine, the parcels into two. Again, we bought it in 2014. We weren't the original developers. We kind of bought it how it is today. And because of certain leases, leases that have been there for 20 years, they've been working off the counting of two parcels. So we're comfortable doing that. Some of the physical items that Jeff has raised, the big concern was those there's 8 dumpsters right there in that back, kind of where a homegrown is located in that back southeast corner, and a grease box, I guess. We've talked to our tenant and they're willing to give up there. That's a loading dock where we're proposing to relocate those, the dumpsters and that grease trap against the back of the building, at an expense to us and in coordination with us, and then giving up that space. So we hope that by removing 8 or 9 dumpsters and a grease trap from that back location and relocating, we hope that'll address a majority of those type of issues. Jeff pointed out that some of the landscaping from the 2000 approval, some of the trees were no longer there. We're happy to address that if they're on our parcel. I think some of the trees that are missing are on the 5th third parcel. We obviously are not. We're not allowed to go on that parcel. That's not our parcel. But if there are trees missing on our parcel, we're happy to replace those. And we've communicated as such. I think he's got November in there of this year to try to replace them. If the trees and the material are availability, I'm not a landscaper, but I understand certain trees are available certain times of year. We're happy to do it. We've been making fence repairs, and we appreciate Jeff pointing that out. We've had them out there consistently. Our porter is now on notice to let us know if they ever see one falling down. We've still got to cut back a little. We've cut back brush, but I was out there today and there's a small portion that still needs to be cut back. So that'll be addressed hopefully this week or as soon as we can. We're either going to power wash certain portions of the building or paint certain portions of the building to address some of the other aged looking areas. Preparing some of the facade repairs. We went out and painted some of the bollards and light pole bases, and we repaired the pavement. So I think we've taken not only operational measures, we've also taken some physical measures. I do want to remind everybody that, if it was up to us, we'd like to go out there and make everybody happy and agree to everything that's being proposed today, but there are leases in place and there's practical and operational issues that we have to address. We just can't go do anything that we want to do. We have leases with tenants, some of whom have been there for 22 years. We can't go violate those leases. That puts us in a position of liability. So, but we're happy to work within the framework that we can. And I think some of the measures that we're welcoming and proposing or okay with show that. Let's see here. Again, as I think I've repeated myself a couple of times, I'll try to be quick now. We hope that some of the measures we're taking today will help enhance the way the property looks, the tenant mix. Will hopefully, having a local tenant own a breakfast place, a local tenant have a gym there that's being, it's got a lot of customers. It's got the local high school in partnership with them. I think we've got the wrestling coach here today to speak on behalf. We hope that we're providing services for the local community. So I'm happy to, I think there are some nuances with all the recommendations that I don't think we can just say, okay, we're good with all these recommendations, because operationally and liability wise under leases, we can't just say, yes, we're good with all these. So we'll try to go through a few of these. Again, affirming the 2010, MA, I don't see there being an issue with that. Again, the 2A, the condition 4, talking about dumpsters being 30 feet away. Again, from my understanding and Tom's explanation to me, it's really limited to that building too. So the one on the east drive lane that's inset within the building, it doesn't apply to that. So we can't really agree to that because we don't want to be in violation by agreeing to something. And again, moving that dumpster is going to cause more noise and trash buildup if you try to move it that far away. And then I don't know what this one is here. But we can bring up, if you want to bring up the slide of where the dumpsters are, Jeff, I'm happy to kind of talk about one. Hey, we're going to move that one. We're fine with the measuring enclosure here.
Do you want me to pull that up?
It's on yours.
How do I go back with this? Sorry. Okay. All right, let me get my glasses on. Parcel consolidation we talked about. We're comfortable making what we own into two parcels. Again, the grease container. The concern. My approach. The grease container, a big question, is currently right here. We don't think we can fit it up here. So the best possible place is here with the other relocated dumpsters. It's going to have a masonry enclosure. It's going to be farther away from all the residential, and that's really the only spot. Otherwise, I don't know where we're going to put this grease. And I know it says no restaurants down here. I don't think, again, we're hopefully that your consideration allowing a grease box within this masonry enclosure where there are other dumpsters is acceptable to everybody here. Let's see. Conditions shall 6 in the morning again. Them being at 6 a.m. Sorry, let me get back here. Talk about grease container. Installation of odor mitigation. Again, 6 in the morning was permitted, in 2021. Buffalo Wild Wings is a national franchise. They use national commercial grade equipment. I personally have been out there. I don't smell anything. And so Buffalo Wild Wings has been there for 22 years now, and we haven't received complaints. So we believe they're using commercial grade systems in their kitchen to eliminate odors. Again, I was out there. I don't really smell anything. But so again, that's gonna be a tenant responsibility. We talked to them, but again, I think they're kind of saying, this is what we do. It's not a barbecue place where you're getting a bunch of smoke from a grill going out the back door. So again, we believe it's being met. I just don't know what else we can do there. But again, 6 in the morning was permitted, and Buffalo Wild Wings has been there for 21 years. Again, homegrown strafing condition. He proposed 6 a.m. We do appreciate him going from 7 to 6, and we acknowledge that he's providing a little bit there. But again, our tenant needs to be there, needs to open at 5:30. It's critical for what they do, for their classes, for how they operate as a business, and we're not sure that they're going to be able to operate if we can't make it 5:30. Just to make that clear is what's kind of been communicated to me. So again, we hope they're able to remain. No music, public address, other noises. Absolutely agree. We're happy to notice tenants anytime there's an issue. The condition 20 requiring white pines. Again, we've agreed. We've got a bid. I believe we provided the bid to Jeff. If it's on our property and it's supposed to be there, we'll put it there.
I've not seen it yet.
Okay. We've got it with you. All right. The 6 and 8 foot fence. Again, we believe that the 6 foot fence and the 8 foot fence are we believe we are in compliance with what's been approved in the past, and we just think it should be left the way it is. We believe we're in compliance, so I'm not sure what else to speak about there. We will make sure it's in good condition if there's any issues moving forward. Almost done. I know there are a lot of people who want to get up here today. We talked about the landscaping. Again, condition 23, it talks about masonry dumpsters everywhere. Again, conditions 4 and 5, I don't think they're acceptable the way they are drafted. We would hope, for the enclosures, he talks about the cardboard. That cardboard is not with GFS. That cardboard is Dollar General's GFS. If you've been out there, it's kept in a uniform, clean condition. It's not being thrown on the ground in a heap. They're in metal casings. They're not an eye. It's not strewn about. It's clean. Putting a masonry enclosure there is going to be difficult because there are 2 doors. We're happy if y'all want us to fence it or screen, put in some sort of screen. I think we're comfortable with that. just where those cardboard are. But again, it's Dollar General's. We'll have to talk to them and try to put that up. But I think that if we can make that as a concession, I think that would be fine. Customer entrances, again, we can limit customer entrances to 6 in the morning and homegrown. And we can put signs back there that say no employee parking only. You know, it's tough if I don't foresee a customer needing to be back there for anybody. I can't really tell our tenants that, hey, you can't have customers back there, but we're happy to put up the sign. We're happy to enforce it. But when it comes to 6 in the morning and homegrown, we can absolutely enforce it. Right? We have those leases that are about to be signed. But again, we're happy to put up the signs as employee parking back there. But just so everybody understands, we're willing to do that. No space outside shall be used for business purposes. That condition is acceptable to us. Rear parking, again, we agreed to place no customer parking. We can't place restricted hours on those signs for employee parking because we've got 17 other tenants who have leases that don't have that restriction. We don't believe they're, if they're not operating for 7 a.m., hopefully it's not an issue. So again, we've got 17 tenants who've been there. There are parking spaces back there. Again, I don't think they're being used before 7 a.m. right now. And hopefully when we put signs back there, it'll limit it even more. But again, we're happy to make that concession and try to help the community in that way. I think in condition 37, again, he talks about the cardboard. We talked about that. Again, the screening there is okay. So I think that covers most of the conditions from our point of view. As you can see, we've gone from saying, hey, how does the hours impact the neighbors? And I think we've all taken, us and the tenant have taken major steps to address those concerns. And we've also expanded out to say, all right, what else can we try to help with the property? Again, within reason and within what we're able to do as a landlord with tenant leases. I appreciate everyone, all of your time. I will take one minute here, and Laura, I may need your help. When it comes to the existing dumpsters, are we putting this in here?
That dumpster is being relocated into the current masonry
This
dumpster.
dumpster here will be relocated into this enclosure here.
Correct. And then the other here, right here, Randy, that's changed since you saw the plan, Jeff. We found we have capacity to place it. We're consolidated into that, so that'll resolve both of those.
And then the compactor here, that's been there, that's, I think, was approved. So again,
There's masonry in front of it.
yeah, we're addressing this, so yeah, that's what hopefully makes sense for everybody. And again, I really appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate everybody, the neighbors for being here. I appreciate customers for being here. I appreciate y'all. Laura's given the neighbors her card so that if there are any issues, they're welcome to call us direct. Again, we've been around since 2004. We've owned shopping centers in many different states and many different communities. I'm certainly, when Jeff called in February, as he knows, I came up here. We've been up here numerous times, and we work with our vendors and tenants to make sure it's kept in the right form and fashion. So thank you, everybody, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. If anyone else, audience wishes to make any comments or make any comments about this, if you would step up to the podium, give us your name, any comments that you have.
Hi, my name is Tom Kreidinger, and I'd just like to start by saying thank all of you for all the work that you're doing to help support us. It's very important. So I've got a list of talking points that should be pretty short. I'm thinking 5 minutes is tops of what I have to say. So hopefully that helps everybody get home and get some food in their stomachs, because I know I'm hungry. So my wife Patty and I live at 6150 St. Regis Drive, which butts up against yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
So we have a petition that's been signed by 67 neighbors impacted by the shops. And I know there's a lot of different issues that are going on here. We've got everything from dumpsters to the time and the hours. But what I'd like us to focus on is just the business and back aspect of it. I think that's one of the primary concerns that we have, because I think it kind of gets lost the forest in the trees, right? Because we talk about all these things. So one specific idea, I'm not speaking for all the residents by saying I'm not worried about the hours and all those things, but in comparison, that's, I think, a big concern. So the 67 neighbors who signed this, I'll just read what they signed to let you know what it was about. It says the area behind the shops of Kenwood should be restricted to authorized employees only and should be labeled as such, restricted area, authorized employees only. So what the area that I'm talking about here is
Is it this area here?
it's right. So you got the front facing store, and there's just the area where you can drive back behind the stores, right? The back area that. So this is what we view as the resident being the red area here. This is basically our buffer. We view that as our kind of our safety buffer. We never expected the stores to be facing the opposite direction, customers parking back there. You know, it's like your car is able to drive in reverse, but nobody expects you to drive it to work in reverse, right? So we didn't explicitly call it out, but what I'm saying is the assumption was that there was going to be no people parking back there. So the area behind the shops Kenwood should be restricted to employees only and should be labeled restricted area, authorized employees only. The additions of a surveillance camera should also be considered. The area back behind the store should not be used as a storefront for any business. Rear doors shall be for deliveries only. We want to maintain that folks have no business in back. The restricted area provides a welcome buffer for residents living behind the shops. If residents see or hear folks causing trouble in the back, they can call the police. The police can tell the individuals to leave because they have no business being back there. The restricted area thus provides a buffer to help keep the neighbors in the neighborhood a safer place to live. So here's the document with the 76 signatures. I know Pauline went around to many. 67. What I say?
You're fine.
Okay, so I have some points regarding no business in back. Okay, so we bought our house, Patty and I, decades ago before the shops at Kenwood existed. It was a trailer park. So, you know, the idea that, oh, well, you bought into it, you know, you get what you're paying, what you paid for, the, you know, if the shops had already been there. But we came up and we worked very hard, right, together to come up with hammering out an agreement regarding storefront locations, operating hours, and many, many other details. All right. So let's fast forward to today. We already have issues with people hanging out behind the shops. We hear the thumping of car stereos, yelling, and the smell of pot wafting over the fence. Okay. And, you know, I hear it. If I go up on the hill where the trees are, I can actually see what's going on, but I don't want to make myself really known to the people back there. So it's kind of like, try to ignore it the best you can, right? So but the problem is people are lifting boards in the fence. They cross the fence over into our neighborhood. It's been an ongoing, they lift them up, they'll squeeze through, they'll put the board back. I don't know why they want to come through there, but it's a continuous problem that we've faced for a long time now. My next door neighbor, who has cited basically the fact that she couldn't live there anymore and moved, said that she confronted the people directly, and they are dangerous because even though she go out and say, hey, what are you doing in my yard, this and that, they would throw things at her and they'd yell profanities at her. But she was fearless as far as, you know, going back there and just, you know, going after them. So I had a truck stolen out of my driveway. I've had the contents of my glove box thrown across the floor when I go to work in the morning. So if I forget to lock the car, you know, somebody will get in there and they'll just rip through I think maybe Tony, there's other neighbors. Usually when it happens, they come through and they're not spending a whole lot of time. They're just pulling on the handles, seeing what's open, going for the low hanging fruit. So I didn't lock the car that night, boom. So I put up 3 security cameras, about a half dozen motion lights. And I was awoken at 4 a.m. by a security camera alert. I could see somebody in a hoodie trying to get inside my truck. And I thought, now I've got him, you know. I jumped out of bed, I ran down the steps, I opened up the door and I thought, what am I gonna do? You know, I can't go out there. That person could have a gun for all I know. And I'm not gonna carry my gun outside. And I can't shoot him and I can't go out there. So all I did as a chicken, opened up the door and just yelled, hey, get away from my truck, you know, and the person left. But my next door neighbor, who was also terrified, always confronted these people. She was completely terrified of dealing with it, and the police told her, don't confront these people, but she would still do it. She would call the police and confront them directly, and she got more adamant when she realized that there were groups of people in her backyard that were trying to build some type of bomb out of Drano. So it really bothered her, and she reported to the police, and she would see flashlights back there, and she'd go back there and she'd call the police at the same time, and the police would come out and they said, what are you doing back here? You know, don't go back here. But the problem is the police have a tough time because by the time they drive from Montgomery Road to get back to our cul-de-sac and they try to catch these people, they run back through the fence. Well, the police have to drive all the way around again to get back. It takes minutes to drive back to the parking lot. And by then they've gone. So it becomes this race. And so if that back area that I've highlighted here in yellow could be made, you know, basically a restricted area for, there's no business back there. It makes it very easy to call the police. It makes their job easy, right? Because they can go back there and say, what are you doing back here? You have no business back here. There is no business conducted back here. So it's a very simple idea, I thought. I'm concerned that it may go another direction with customers being allowed to park back there, and having it a completely restricted area makes it very easy for us to call the police and ensure that, you know, the police don't have a tough time getting rid of those people. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? Come up and give us your name.
Hello, my name is Janelle Bookout, and I am one of the owners for Homegrown Strength and Conditioning. I have been in contact with Jeff since January when he reached out to my manager, Sarah Menendez, who's not here with me today. I believe you guys saw my son and my husband, who were also here. My husband and I own the gym together. Extreme small business, but we decided to start up our own business and are very local, one location. So just to give you guys a little bit of background as to who we are. So as Jeff mentioned, we're a CrossFit gym, and we have been in business essentially since October 2022. We did reach out to the city of Kenwood and reached out to Sycamore Township in regard to getting a certificate of occupancy. Either the calls and emails went unanswered, or in regard to Kenwood, the city of Kenwood, they mentioned that we were good to go. We did everything that we needed to. So as far as we knew, we thought everything was good to go. And I did mention this to Jeff back in January. So he is very aware of all of that. In regard to so I'm going to keep like the situations, because as he had mentioned earlier, it could get very confusing in regard to everything that has been recommended for the building itself, but I'm going to talk about our business specifically. So we were told from the very beginning when Jeff reached out, said, hey, we don't want you parking in the back. We don't want you rear facing. So we very, very quickly worked back with our landlord and created a solution. I will mention it is a very unique solution, but it's a solution nonetheless. As of March we then began to come and enter through the front of the building. So since March, we have not been entering through the back. The only people that have entered through the back are employees. And then we also have Moeller students that get dropped off in the back. As Jeff mentioned earlier, we've had Moeller students get dropped off back there mainly due to safety concerns. So I don't want students going through the front where there's essentially like an abandoned space. And I think you all can understand that if you had a high school student walking through an abandoned space. So that was something that I chose to say that was something I was gonna, no matter what, they had to be dropped off in the back. They're not, these students don't drive, like they're getting dropped off and picked up. So we have been fine with parking through the front. So we have been licensing out the front space. So we are in space C. We've been licensing out space B, and we have been walking through an emergency exit. We're also walking through an abandoned tan salon. So although that is not my preferred option, because again, as I mentioned, it's abandoned, it doesn't look the best. And we luckily have a lot of members that are very understanding of our situation and that are willing to abide by all of this. But I can probably attest to all of them that they probably don't feel the most comfortable walking through it. I know I don't. So I have mentioned that to our landlord, and they've been very understanding of trying to figure out solutions for us to essentially take over that space, get rid of all the tanning salons, and then we would make the two spaces into one. And then we would do the majority of our business in the front of the space, and put mainly the back of the space would be like very quiet personal training or essentially storage of our big equipment. So that was our goal. In regard to the 5:30 time, that is a non-negotiable for us. And I have multiple people here that are in that 5:30 a.m. class. I work at Procter & Gamble. I'm a senior account executive there. I can attest from my personal standpoint that, and I'm sure all of you know, driving through the Kenwood area, this area can get very congested, especially during peak traffic times. So a lot of these people, we don't currently have shower spaces because we're in a very limited space. I would love to get that in the future. We just don't have the space for it today. So if we are able to do that in the future, that would drastically help, but right now we don't have that. So in the sense of having 5:30 a.m., these people have to go to the gym, go home, shower, and then go to work. So if they're coming to and from this Kenwood area that tends to get very congested, that 30-minute time frame is very, very valuable for them. So I want you to understand that it's for these people that are trying to figure out a way to get to work on time. Those are really the main pieces for us. I will also say, and I want to be very clear about this, all of the things that he mentioned in regard to all of those illegal activities, kids breaking into things, has absolutely nothing to do with my gym. Nothing to do with my people, my gym, nothing. I didn't even know that any of those things were happening. And apparently they're happening more like in the middle of the night. They're not happening when my business is being ran. All of our people are very healthy and nutrition conscious. They clearly, I mean, they're there to work out. So the last thing that they're going to do is hang out, drink, and smoke weed in the back and break into people's cars. All of these people have high paying jobs. Our average gym membership is $170 a month. So if you can consider the income you would need to have that $170 a month membership, you know, it's not super cheap. And we are a boutique style gym. So we don't require a large amount of space like an LA Fitness or, you know, Planet Fitness or anything. We are a small based gym, and our average class size is anywhere from 5 people to 15 people a class. So we offer an array of classes so that anybody from the professional to the stay-at-home parent, the retiree, or a student can come to class. So that's just a little bit about who we are and our business model. And ultimately, on behalf of my members, I want to make sure that we are able to run a business the way that we originally intended to. And to be very honest and a little vulnerable here, I feel like a lot of the things that have come up specifically as Jeff has given us, like, you need to change this, this, and this, and as things have continued to evolve over the last 7 to 8 months, it's felt like we are being treated to fail. And I've expressed this to Jeff in the past, and he has told me, we will do what we can to help you and to help make things work for you. But I also want to be very clear that there are certain things that we need to be able to do to run our business. And when we're being told, hey, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, it feels as if we are being targeted to fail. And like I said, I'm a small business. I'm still in the red. We are doing our best to bring a really great environment and vibe to this township. And honestly, we've brought a lot of business with all of our members going to Trader Joe's, to Gordon Food Service after the gym. They're going to restaurants, they're going shopping. So understand that we are bringing nothing but good to this area. And we ultimately we want to feel like we're comfortable in this township and that we are able to ultimately run a business and thrive.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else have any comments? Step up.
Hi, I'm Patricia Kreininger. I live at 6150 St. Regis Drive. Our house backs up to the shops at Kenwood. So I still don't feel comfortable even having the high school students be dropped off behind the building. The front of the building, all customers access buildings from the front. The sidewalk in front of the door to the business is, I don't know, 4 feet deep. I mean, their parents could pull the car right up to the curb, let the child off at the door in the front of the building that everyone else accesses, and walk through the building to get to the gym. I don't see where the children are in danger accessing the building from the front. Also, we want to make sure that the deliveries in the back still aren't permitted before 7 a.m. if you're changing the hours to 6 a.m. I was one of the people that worked on that 2000 PUD, and we are very trying to keep the neighborhoods quiet so the kids can sleep and people can sleep and not be disturbed on off hours or whatever. And then the reason we had no restaurants in the back section was to keep grease, garbage, that sort of thing from attracting rats, and rats then getting into our neighborhood. So we do not want a grease trap in that no restaurant section at all, because that's why we set that up as no restaurants specifically. So those were the things I wanted to mention. Just keep the sound quiet in the back and the rats and the grease out of the back where our neighborhood is, just to allow us to have a peaceful neighborhood as much as we can. We still have dumpsters being dumped and everything else, but we understand the dumpsters have to be dumped. But once again, after 7 a.m., that's our concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Pauline Barthel, and I know a lot of you probably have seen me around because I've been in the area and lived there for 53 years. And I was only 2 when I moved in. Also, I've always been in contact with a lot of the neighbors because I walk a lot. That's my exercise. I don't need to go to CrossFit. I walk. And at my age, that's good. So one of the neighbors did give this letter to me to share with you. I have no idea what her comments are or what she's addressing, but it was in relationship to the shops at Kenwood. So I would like to share that with you.
Okay.
I would like to also, I guess I need to be by the microphone, address the fact that the dumpsters and the grease and everything has been a problem over the years. I can't tell you how many multiple times I've had to call the Hamilton County Sewer District, and they come out and bait the sewers to keep our area rat-free back there. One day I went out and there was one on my front porch. And then another time there was a dead one on my side yard. And so after 53 years, that is something you just don't really need. And so they do bait the sores and it does help. As far as I'm concerned, if we keep everybody out of the back and keep it quiet back there and to keep people out in the front and to have them come in early in the morning, if they're at 5:30 in the morning out in the front on Montgomery Road, that's not a problem. But if they're in the back and coming down these side streets to get back there, it is a problem. And one day there was a big, huge delivery truck came in. And I don't know if I know where I live, but I'm in the intersection. If you don't turn left or you don't turn right, you'll be in my front door. And this huge delivery truck came in, went all the way up Winnetka Drive, got caught up there. Neighbors were helping them back out. So there are problems still, even though, no matter how cautious we are and how much we take it and keep all the rules and everything. So there always is something, but basically, if everybody's willing to work together and we can keep it a clean and a good place, and we certainly would appreciate that. And thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
My name is Sean Ryan, and I'm a 28-year veteran of coaching high school students in the greater Cincinnati area. One of the main reasons that we've had the privilege and the opportunity to partner with Homegrown CrossFit Strength and Conditioning is the quality of the services that they provide our young men. Our opportunity at Archbishop Moeller High School is always to provide safe, well-supervised, appropriate opportunities that match with the programs that we have. I believe, and it is the belief of the parents, who are really the most important people other than the students, the student athletes that we work with, believe that HGSC has been a fantastic partner for their young men. In fact, the majority of our young men are dropped off and properly supervised by their own parents who feel that the opportunity to drop them off in the location is perfectly safe because they themselves are supervising their own sons in that drop off. I do concur, and I think our parents would as well. Yes, the retail space offered up front, that's ideal for anybody and everybody. However, we do adhere to and utilize the offered proper parking spaces that accommodate for individuals to walk from those spaces to the structure itself. None of our young men or their parents participate in parking in the alleyway on the side of the facility or between the building and the residence. On average, we have 9 to 11 young men who go and participate for 1 hour, 3 days a week, from 3:30 to 4:30. Now, when we started this process, our goal was to say, hey, let's start with this small group and see how it goes. It's been fantastic. It's been greatly received. Right out of the gate, I'll talk about the folks that are providing the services. There's nobody better. I put my own child through training in high school who had college opportunities directly related to the opportunity she had with Janelle and her husband, Alex, and the training that they provide and the supervision that they provide for my daughter. So I had no problem presenting this group to the families as an option for our young men, because we have 250 young men playing football this year, just down the street in this very community of Sycamore Township at Moeller High School. Our facilities are limited. We seek out opportunities and partners that, again, match with the goals that we have and with the goals that our parents have, and honestly, all respect to the community at large and where they reside. Our young men are supervised, they are appropriate, they work hard, and they are literally there from 3:10, 3:15 to 4:45. It's also not unusual for me to receive compliments from the adults who come and go. I like to challenge our guys occasionally in the training space. They are fantastic role models. If I thought for one single moment that any individual was coming and going and utilizing that space for the use of illicit means, drugs, alcohol, or otherwise, none of our student athletes would be attending HGSC, period. It would not happen. I wouldn't be coaching for 28 years if I allowed that sort of thing. It's just not going to happen. Speaking to the expansion of use of time and the quality, this has been such a great, I wouldn't even call it an experience for us. We've talked about our spring programming and other opportunities for a club for CrossFit, the club for Moeller High School. Sycamore High School friends of mine and other schools have also looked at opportunities to participate and send their students. In fact, we have someone who has siblings that attend now at that facility. So we're in ongoing talks of those opportunities to expand those opportunities for these young men. Likewise, we've been doing this in the off season since I believe May, consistently 3 days a week. To this point, we will continue into the preseason for us. Our goal is to utilize that space before school. Again, 9, 10, 11 boys, maybe even 15. Going through the front would be fantastic. We would love that opportunity. As soon as that space is rectified appropriately for us to cross into that space, I was actually very pleased when Alex and Janelle approached and said, look, as long as they're properly supervised, which again, their parents are doing the majority of that. In fact, it is not unusual for us to have 1 to 2, sometimes 3 parents in the facility with their young men during this time. It is also not unusual to have 1 or 2 parents sitting in their cars for an hour to an hour and a half, waiting for their young men to come and go from the facility. I trust our parents. I trust our parents tremendously. I personally have benefited because I have my own business. I'm not a teacher. I've been blessed with the opportunity and responsibility of coaching for as long as I have. So I take advantage. Quite frankly, I'm in McAllister's on a regular basis. So they've got a lot of my money right now. We look forward to continue. I am not Moeller High School. Okay. But I put myself on the line for the young men who go to school there because I believe in the group and their integrity and what they're doing. And I support that. If there's anything that we can do, we will gladly abide by what is appropriate, deemed appropriate by you, yourselves, in conjunction with these folks, to continue our relationship and hopefully make it grow. They too, like us, are members of this township. We've been here for a long time. We plan on being here for a long time. We take advantage of our other programs, running up and down the streets across Moeller High School, through Montgomery, down to Kenwood, and back again on those sidewalks. You see Sycamore High School, you see Moeller High School, you see all these facilities utilizing those public spaces. And we love to have that opportunity to express that and continue our relationship with HGSC where they are. I will say this, no matter where they go, we will be going there with them, and so will our business. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Tony Harris. I live at 6148 St. Regis. First of all, I don't think anybody's debating the quality of the company, the fitness place. We're not debating that it's a strips joint or something like that we don't want in the community. We do embrace it. But there are certain covenants that have been put in place since RCG bought the property in 2014 and since 2000. And they're to protect the nearby residents. And we need you to protect us. Opening a business at 5:30 in the morning for local residents is a problem. I own my own business. I frequently don't get home till 11 o'clock or midnight. I resented Mr. Tepe saying, well, what's the difference if you open at 5:30 or 6? For me, it's a great deal of difference. If you have the ability to go to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock and you work at 9 to 5, that's fine, but I don't. And having trucks and having noise and congestion in my immediate area is a major problem for me. I've lived in this community now for almost 40 years and I've enjoyed it. And gentlemen like yourselves and women like yourselves have protected us. And I need you to protect us now. It's an impressive display of all the people that work at the fitness place and that work out there. But we live here and we vote here and we need you to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'm going to be 75 years old on Wednesday.
Ma'am,
I,
would you give us your name?
Barry Martin, Marten, like the number 10. I've lived here since I was 6 years old and I'm 75 on Wednesday.
If you could also provide your address.
6970 Rosemary Lane. This property once belonged to Dr. Montgomery. There was a horse, Cinderella. She'd come to the gate and you could feed her carrots. My problem is what was mentioned before about the people coming through the gates and crossing over into the neighborhood and going back out. It's not safe. And as far as the grease goes, I own a restaurant in Chicago. I know what a grease pit is. I don't want rats, I don't want roaches, and I don't want raccoons. And this is a draw for all this. And they've been in our yard. I'm just emphasizing that. I also don't want cars back there with music. If they're dropping off somebody, how do I know what they're playing at that time in the morning? I hear all of it. When they built the expressway, I told my mom I can't open up my windows, my bedroom windows. I hear the trucks join. That's not your concern now, but I'm saying I'm now on the other side of the building and I'm hearing this stuff. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi. My name is Rachel Rule. I'm a member of Homegrown Strength and Conditioning. So I also, to mimic what you said or to echo what you said, I also kind of resent the 5:30 or 6. What's the big difference? But kind of on the flip side. So I'm a clinical pharmacist at Jewish Hospital. I work 12 to 14-hour shifts on my days that I'm working. I have to be there by 7 a.m. 5:30 is sometimes that only mental outlet and that only hour that I can get for myself. So I think the 5:30 a.m. is a very, it's a very important thing to our community. It's kind of a CrossFit standard. A lot of CrossFit gyms all over the country, they have classes that start at 5:30 in the morning. And as I'm kind of hearing, I think as long as we abide from the entrance from the front, that 30 minutes may be okay, and we may all be able to agree on that. I also just had a question about the new condition 36. It said employees are not allowed to park in the back until 7 a.m. But I just would like to amend or formally ask that if we do open that at 5:30 or at 6, whatever we agree to, that the coaches would be allowed to park there at that time rather than the 7 a.m. time, so that our coaches can get in safely as well. And
why can't you go through
Ma'am, she's speaking.
And then to the point about why do the kids need to be dropped off in the back and not the front, it's not the front entry that's the area or the area of concern, it's the corridor to weave back into the actual gym. There's a big, couple, I don't know, hundreds of yards, I'm not exactly sure what the distance is, but it's dark and it's very creepy. And as a woman walking through there by myself, I have been scared, and I work out, right? I should be able to handle it. But yeah, that's the concern, not the entry point or the door itself, but the corridor to go back to the gym, just to clarify that.
I'm happy to clarify. There may be a misunderstanding. If
this speaker is finished.
Yeah, I think I'm done. And then finally, we just all welcome you all to come check us out. I don't know if I could just formally welcome everybody. It's a great environment, and we really hope that we can stay there. Thank you.
Mr. Garfield, I certainly want to let you speak. Is there any other comments, so you might be able to answer all the questions that might arise, if you don't mind? And you've already been up, so anybody else?
Mine's going to be real quick. I just have a question. Oh, Carol Schneider, 5960. I'm sure you've heard my name, Winnetka Drive. One real quick question, and this came up, and I don't know if this is in the prevalence of the township. Why wasn't this put in their lease that says your opening hour should be, this is in our township rules. This is the opening hour. This is the closing hour. Why wasn't something that simple put in the lease? So we wouldn't be here. So we would be in compliance with the township regulations. And we wouldn't be here starving. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
It's devaluing our property. Think of that too. With these rats and people coming, they will see, the police already know this. They come through, they watch the people run down from the terraces or go back. When they see somebody in the neighborhood in foul play, they first go up to look and see if they came down from the terraces. No one's questioning the quality of the business here, but when you go and rent, you find out what the deal is in the township. What time do they open? What are the regulations?
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Evans. I am the company president of Kidsburg Sports Center and one of the owners up on Kemper Road, resides in Sycamore Township. We've done business in Sycamore Township for nearly 50 years. We've been at Kids First for 25, and we understand how critical it is for the business to operate and the residents to be heard, because we've had our own expansions over that time. And we've heard the needs of residents. I think what we're looking at here is we have real concerns, and some of those are falling on the property owner, the building owner, and some of those are impacting the small business that is a very small family-owned private business, which is what all of us want, are more of those locally owned businesses. To change that start time from 5:30 to 6 may put her under where she is not able to run her business. And I'm not saying that that means the residents have to give up what they want, which is safety and security. There has to be a way to make this work in order for all of us to coexist. I know that somebody is going to be leasing that space. That is a business, it's space to be leased. And there's no one better, in my opinion, than Alex and Janelle to lease that space. They're family focused, they're community centered. They operate in this area of health and fitness and building people up. They are not, that particular business, and the fact that they operate at 5:30 in the morning is not the reason that people are crossing over into your residence. And I'm not sure that that's even what you were implying. So there are separate issues that do need to be addressed. My son attends Muller High School. He is one of the wrestlers, and I wouldn't want him to walk down the corridor to try to get to homegrown. I am much more comfortable dropping him off so that he can enter and I see him go in and I see him come out and I pick him up. I'm not blaring my country music loud. I'm sitting in my car waiting for him to be finished. And I'm very empathetic to the residents. I understand that seeing the sprawling businesses over the decades that you've lived there has got to be difficult for you, but it is going to be business. And I would like to think that maybe we can all work together. I appreciate your time and all that you do for Sycamore Township. And I very much appreciate listening to the solutions that are being forwarded. Not keeping the doors open, not blaring music, not working out outside. As a business owner myself, the employee safety is very important. We have over the last 3 weeks had homeless people on our property at 6 o'clock in the morning. One entered our building. I don't want employees to have to navigate that corridor to get to their place of operation. That back entrance, if they're employees that understand the bigger picture and the importance of being mindful of the residents, coming in, parking your car and going through that back entrance is their best safety option. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
I just add something to the back corridor. When I spoke with the fire chief, I thought that was just to be an emergency corridor in case of a fire. So we're using it every day. I don't know if that's the original intent.
Mr. Garfin, you want to make
I'll be
some
very
comments?
quick. I think there's a little.
Please step up if you can clarify anything.
Again, my name is Randy Garfinkel, again with RCG. So the two items, as Jeff brought up the issue with the rear entrance, in the meantime, we said, okay, you can use the front space to access the back until the resolution of the amendment. So as you go through an unbuilt out space up front, there's, again, it's an unbuilt out space of a former tenant that the homegrown has agreed to use temporarily to access their space. Upon approval of 5:30 a.m., their operating hours, they've agreed to lease that entire front space, and we will be in upfitting it. So upon approval, I think their concern is right now going through the front space, it's an unbuilt out space, so they feel more comfortable watching their sons or students or whomever, or the coach going in the rear. But again, we've tried to make that front space available in the meantime. But as soon as if the amendment is approved and they get to 5:30, they're going to be leasing the entire space, and the front space will be built out. And so upon that permit being approved and the build out taking place, which will hopefully be within 30 or 60 days of you guys approving it, everybody will be going in the front. I think they've tried to do it everybody in the front, but some people don't feel as comfortable in that temporary use. So that's one. And then I know we talked about, and I want to make sure I explain the grease box. We're trying to relocate it farther away from the residents. So I just want to make that clear. We hope that the relocation from where it is now will improve the matter. And again, safety is absolutely important. We encourage and we appreciate the residents. If they see something going on, please call the police. It's important. We ask our tenants to do the same. We ask our customers to do the same. We ask the residents. If there's an issue on site, let us know, call the police. I think everybody's in agreement with that. So
Are there lights available in the salon, the tan salon now?
I believe there are lights.
It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be dark.
Yeah, it's functioning. There are lights there. It's just not built out, right? It's just not, again, you're going into a former tenant space, and it's not finished. But until we get a amendment solution, it's a large expense to do that. We want to make sure that they're going to be a tenant there for a long time before we do that. Thank you again, everybody.
I don't understand how you can rent somebody a space when you knew beforehand that it was 7 o'clock instead of 5:30.
Okay, if there are no further comments,
Mr. Chair, I just have a few points there was a few questions I could answer. Related to deliveries, there's a provision from the original case 2000-01Z that would remain in full force that would restrict deliveries after 7. There was a comment related to a restricted area in the back, and essentially I think it's condition 34. There's kind of a map outline next to that, which would get the exact condition. Let's see here. Which would basically show a no customer area outlined in red. Relating to the GFS cardboard that's currently outside, that the township would certainly welcome screening that. I think from the dumpster conversation where comes the requirements masonry. Related to the parking, staff does not view the current parking setup as an issue. Currently, there are a number of parking spaces in the back that are being taken up by dumpsters, or in the case of GFS, their cardboard carts are currently in parking spaces. Currently, there's a pod in the back. Staff certainly does not view the parking to be an issue, and I would note that a PUD would allow for reduced parking. That's one of the flexibilities of a PUD. Related to the grease trap, I would echo some of the comments I heard related to it. While the area in the back is perhaps a natural place to have one, the proposed grease trap area to the north, that location would be the furthest away from any residential properties.
Isn't that also the multi-family?
In regards, we tried. We want to put that top there.
It would essentially require the loss of a parking space to build out an enclosure to put in the grease trap. If you're putting it on the other side of the compactor to the north.
Is the recess?
Which tenants use that?
What's that?
That's to the north, I think, to stick on that.
I was gonna say, which tenants use the grease trap?
I believe it's 6 in the morning, and I don't know about BW3s.
The BW3 and McAllister's, do they use it?
I'm not sure. The residential property line is about right here. This would be the northern grease trap location. So you basically have a stretch from here up. The other proposed location, which I would, it is a natural place, just in terms of, in a place where other dumpsters are. But that residential property line is about right here. So you would have that distance versus this distance and this distance.
And the recess.
Would be the front door. Again, we're open to it. I mean, again, we're happy to have the conversation. We're here to work with everybody. We're here to work with you. We're happy to have that conversation. If it works, we're happy to have a conversation about it. We just thought we were moving it, putting it in a masonry enclosure and putting it farther away from the current residents. I think that issue with it. So that was, we thought would be the best solution. We're happy to explore another spot if possible. You guys are saying. But there, we're happy to look into it.
The recessed dumpster is 30 feet away. The one that's recessed by the building.
The current recessed dumpster, which is right here, is in the ballpark of about 17 feet from that property line, give or take.
So it's still. Thank you.
From that residential property.
Okay. And if the grease pit was put in the collection of dumpsters to the backside of the building, would it be the required distance from the property line?
It would, I measured it out and it would exceed the 30 feet. To the point that one resident made about the, the original PUD was passed in 2000. I think I was in the 4th grade. Certainly a grease trap is, and so I wasn't here for those conversations, but certainly a grease trap is an accessory to a restaurant. They're producing grease from that restaurant. And I suspect that keeping a restaurant use out of that area is to keep out, rats and other varmint.
Yeah, so that's my question. So it's not a matter of it's not far enough away from the residential line.
Yes.
Because you consider it or you proposing that it be considered it's kind of an accessory use to the restaurant. And there was a purpose that no restaurant should be in that back building.
That's correct. It's the township or the issue with it is not the distance. It certainly is more than 30 feet. It's the no restaurant demarcation.
And if they're using that grease trap, like, the Buffalo Wings, wouldn't it be better to have it closer to the location rather than way back in the back of the building?
It's logistics related to the restaurants. Like right now back there, I mean, there is a massive grease spill that's back here now. You could go back there and see it. If the grease pit is up here, it is further away from residential properties, especially these residential properties. But perhaps, like for example, 6 in the morning, they're going to have to, they're going up here. It's a similar distance. If on that box 4, if they're proposing a grease trap, certainly they're probably losing a space to the north because they have to site that grease trap and build up something around it. Right, it's a tight area.
What is immediately to the east of that box 4? That's not residents there, is it office?
What was the question?
What's immediately east of box 4?
It's another commercial property, office space.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments or questions? Ms. Planning?
No more.
Bear?
No, I'm rather confused on the dumpster situation. And I don't know if I can have someone present. I don't know if I should just ask a question, but if we would go box by box to get clarity of what Jeff's proposing and what our applicant's proposing, it might be helpful. Is
perfectly
everyone?
okay, yeah.
So I have a good handle on it. Box 5 and 6 are going to be removed. They're going to be relocated. So those are no longer there.
There will be no dumpster.
There'll be no-
Where's 5?
5 is going, I believe, in 7, and then 6 is going, is it in 2?
Correct.
No. I rephrase it. Box 5 and box 1. Box 6 is the compactor for GFS. That's staying. Box
Okay,
one is
and
when,
So box 6, then compactor stays with any enclosure or
it's already behind masonry.
with enclosure?
Yep, it's good.
And is that also the place where the stacked cardboard is as well?
No, the stacked cardboard is just to the east of box 5 in these parking area spaces here. Right in here.
And the applicant has said that they would screen that area. And that's acceptable.
I think the testimony was that they're open to screening it. I think their concern perhaps might be the masonry element, from what I heard.
You know, there's usually a baler involved with cardboard. Is that the case here or no baler?
From what I can tell, it looks like they're on metal carts and they're kind of put in the slots. It's not producing like a big, a 3 foot by 3 foot bale.
Okay.
It's an individual cart.
Just enclosure.
Box 1, to clarify, is going where going in the 2, so box 1 will be removed. Box 7 it's a masonry enclosure.
New. Proposed.
What's it?
Proposed mason.
No, it's existing.
Existing.
It is closer than the 30-foot rule, but because it's existing and hopefully it's in use, staff is part of the condition 4, staff would propose, 4, there's basically a caveat that's okay in its location. Box 3, the dumpster and the carve out, I certainly conceded, it is not on that original 2000-10 MA case, it's not next to building 2, so that there's the 30-foot rule. It's a natural carve out, so the dumpster, it can be removed there. It's just 17 feet, and certainly the board can propose its removal, or it can propose that it stays.
Okay. And were you recommending an enclosure if it stays?
I'm not sure that an enclosure is feasible because it has to come in at kind of an angle, the truck, and if you have a enclosure there.
The 30 feet doesn't apply to that building.
If you have an enclosure there, they might not be able to remove that dumpster.
Is that statement correct, that the 30 feet doesn't?
Under the case 2000-10 MA, but as the PUD is being reopened, of course, the zoning commission and board of trustees can, propose any rule, that it gets hashed out from there. So if that's something you're comfortable with, keeping it there, you certainly could propose that if
And again, that's which dumpster?
And
That's
it's been there
number
for 22 years.
this is dumpster in box 3, behind BWP along the east access lane. The condition of it was deteriorated, but it's certainly been improved in recent months.
Is there room for the grease pit to go there as well?
If the dumpster was removed.
They both can do that. And just for clarity, building 2 is which building? The building basically in the corner?
As part of the 10 MA case, there was different segments of the building. And building 2 was this cutout here. Building 3 was more of the kind of the rectangular strip. So if you look at that area, building, let's see here. This polygon here is basically building 2. And then you can see actually listed, building 3 is this rectangle. The last point was related to the fence. The staff wasn't talking about the east property line. We concede that, yes, there was a condition on that original 2000-01Z case. It was the southern fence, that's 6 feet. Whereas if you read the text, you can, there's some confusion on that.
So just to be clear, the entire east property has a 6-foot fence, and that's compliant.
Currently, it's compliant. It's in rickety shape. So over the years, they'll have to keep doing replacements on it. But it is 6 feet. It is compliant. There is the 8-foot fence that's back here. That's compliant. The only question was this fence here along this run in relation to,
Is that the fence that's so deteriorated that people going through it?
so so recently, we've viewed this property a number of times in June and July, and then one week there were two boards kicked out on this 8-foot fence, and there was basically a box, and you could see where someone came through it, and the applicant has since repaired it. I don't know where people are cutting through or cutting in and out, but certainly you can see where someone literally vandalized it, kicked out fence. It's been since repaired, but I understand it's been an ongoing issue.
We believe the 6-foot wall here is compliant based on the site plans, the 6-foot fence.
Let me see if I can blow that up. It's not letting me blow it up, but it does say existing 6-foot wood privacy fence to remain. And it does list that southern fence. It just conflicts with that original condition 21 of case 2000-01Z in the reading of it. Here you can also see it says end 8-foot wood privacy fence with an arrow right there.
Aaron, anything else?
No. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, owner of the fitness facility, said that she had talked to the township, was told that everything was okay. I understand there's not a city of Kenwood, so I'm assuming you talked to somebody in Sycamore Township.
I don't know if I remember the conversation that way. I remember the conversation went like, we notified them that there was an issue, and we communicated with them that we would hold this in abeyance until this case was worked through. Originally, we were speaking to them about the issue, and then there's some of the other stuff with the property that arose, and then there was the fact that there's the restaurant 6 a.m. that was there, and then you had two businesses opening up before 7, and so from that point, I think I don't know the discussions that occurred on the other side, but instead of the gym being the applicant, the CrossFit City being the applicant, RCG, the property owner, decided to be the applicant. The communication I had with Homegrown Strength was, we can go through the process, but there's really no guarantees. Ultimately, it would go before the zoning commission and board of trustees if there's a major adjustment proposal.
So they don't have to see it right now.
No.
No zoning certificate.
Correct.
And on the restaurant, I know their name would imply that they're open at 6 a.m., but is there a certificate of occupancy or their zoning certificate permit them to be open at 6 a.m.?
Yes, we issued zoning certificates for it. In fact, there was a banner that the township, a temporary banner that said the restaurant is opening at 6 a.m. And so it's like, and this occurred, I think, in 2020, 2021 in that time frame.
Bruce, anything?
No.
No, I would just make a comment that, Mitch just said that it goes to Kenwood, and I was wondering who's giving any instructions, but the fact that there are existing conditions about the time that you can operate, the landlord, they might write a lease, but if they wrote a lease saying you can operate at 5:30, they have no authority to do that. That lease is not binding on the township just because they decided to put a time in there. Obviously, there are a lot of other factors here. Not saying how we should move this along or what we should do, but some people have a false sense that, you know, if they got a lease, that they're entitled to do that. And I have no idea what the lease says, you know,
That's why we're here. That's why our attorney says you need to do a plan amendment to address the situation. That's why we're here.
Yes.
We always talk about the lease, that's what just parking and rear access and entrances and stuff.
I understand, but I mean, there's other comments been made. Some people think, well, gosh, they got a lease, you know, now what are we gonna do? You know, and that's not the case, and it's not binding on us, sir. Anyway, with that said, anyone care to make a motion on the application? I actually, if I could step back one thing. I know tonight Mr. Garfinkel, you pointed out certain areas where dumpsters were gonna move and what was going to happen. I don't know if we have final drawings that actually show that, or that is something that came up.
We provided a site plan.
Okay.
And I received the elevations from architects.
That can be put into a separate condition can be offered, basically approving or of whatever dumpster schematic that you think is appropriate to make clear for the trustees. That would be some of the information related to the dumpsters we haven't seen. So for example, the elevations, and then the proposal we saw tonight, 2 of the dumpsters were proposed to be moved, which was new for this meeting. To pass renditions of those dumpsters were proposed to stay.
That's what I was talking about. That we saw something, you know, we're gonna move this dumpster, we're gonna have an enclosure, but I didn't really see any detail about that in the materials that we had received ahead of time. So I just want to be certain that whatever those new things were that were pointed out tonight, that we had available to us for whatever decision we might make.
Related to the site arrangement of the dumpsters or the grease pit, it would be advantageous if the board so chose to offer a viewpoint on, I think, like, for example, box 5 here and box 1 are moot now. Those dumpsters are removed. The 2 questions were the location of the grease pit. This would be making a recommendation to the trustees, and then related to the box 3, does the board feel comfortable with its current location, or does the board propose moving it? I think some guidance on that, if the board so chose, would be helpful for the next step. And that can be in the form of a condition, which we could roll in. There was condition 33 related to dumpsters. I think I spoke to Mr. Barrick individually before the meeting. That condition 33 and 38 could be entwined in one condition. And then if you guys want to provide feedback on some of the outstanding dumpster grease pit locations, that would be a natural place to fit that, perhaps.
Someone care to make one?
I move that we consider case number 2023-06 MA, currently with the 38 conditions noted on the staff report.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Barrett. Okay. Anyone care to make any additional comments about that? Yeah.
Well, with help from my associates, some of these,
Start in any order, that will that get better?
since you made the motion, did you have an opinion on?
I don't know. I mean, there's some of these conditions we probably don't have as much trouble with as some of the.
I'll take a stab at it. And I'm torn on the grease proper location.
I'm okay with it in the being moved up to the
To the
dumpsters.
front. Okay. On the cardboard recycling, I think that should be a requirement that would be screened.
But not with masonry. With
Doesn't need to be masonry for my purposes.
And that's okay with me as
All
well.
right. Consolidation of the parcels, so that is agreeable. Next one is the grease trap, is condition 10.
Mr. Meeser, when you say the consolidation, you're talking about the applicant's proposal to put in the two
Two
parcels
parcels.
as opposed to.
Correct, I'm okay with the two. The grease trap, and if you think that goes up to the north location.
Yes.
Okay. 12 is sufficient odor mitigation, and we touched on briefly. I know that there is equipment that can be installed to mitigate the odor. It seems like it is either it is there or it isn't there, so how we verify whether the restaurants are using proper equipment.
And is that really an issue for us here on this? It's a tenant obligation.
Tenant obligation.
It was a requirement in the original 2000-01Z. In fact, I can read the.
That's okay. I think your point is it's a restatement of an existing condition, so we're just confirming that condition.
Yeah.
Okay. 5:30 versus 6 a.m. Conflicted there.
I'm okay with 5:30, so long as the all entry is from the front.
Certainly, everything. coming
Even
in
at
the
this
front.
point.
Yeah, okay.
I would like to clarify too, I think, question, is this applying to the entire center or just to two tenants?
I would propose that it just be for those
Two
two
tenants.
tenants.
I would
If
agree with
another
that.
tenant came along, then they can come back to the process.
I could-
I think if everybody's operating at 5:30, that could present. a problem.
We want to minimize the impact to the residents.
Would your proposal be to keep it at 7 a.m. except for these two tenants, and that if any other tenant came in, there would be a new major adjustment case for earlier than 7? Is that the proposal?
I guess,
Yes.
actually.
15 sounds like no music and public address. I do appreciate noise coming out of the back of the business. And residents should 100% be protected. Condition 20 here, looks like a repeal, 20 picked up at 21. I'm still a little bit confused on fences, but I think we just kind of walk through that. If the zoning requirement requires 6 foot in certain areas and 8 foot in other areas, and that's what they have built, then I'm okay with that. Landscaping added, sounds like the applicant's agreeable to that. New condition 33. The site plan to be revised to show the masonry dumpster location, sounds like a new drawing that shows that get prepared prior to this going to the trustees. Condition 34, that all customer entrances be located on the front facing the covered road, so the applicant is agreeable to that. 35, no activity outside the building premises. That's kind of the normal process anyway. So the applicant is okay with that. Rear parking 36. So Jeff, your proposal here was even if they open up at 5:30, employees would still would park in the front until 7 a.m. and then they could park in the back.
Right.
Okay. No commercial business maintaining outdoor storage of materials. I think that's we talked about the cardboard being screened. And then 38 revised site plan showing the location.
Actually, that requires the site plan to go for trustees though. But that requires a plan. That's the plan.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
33 and 38 could be basically,
Combined.
it's getting at the same thing. The only thing just to see guidance on was this dumpster in box 3 on the board's position on that.
Box 3, is that the one that's in the edge of the building?
Yeah, behind Buffalo Wild Wings.
Buffalo Wings.
If it's been there for 20 some odd years and it's not creating a major problem, and they've done some work here recently to clean it up and it continues, I think it's fine where it is.
Bruce, anything to add to that?
Nothing.
We didn't discuss the signs at all.
Signage. Oh,
That wasn't,
Was it?
that wasn't maintained as a condition because it was within a condition that was with the goal of it being in full force and effect, so they come into compliance. But if the board wants to propose a change to that condition, which I can find the original condition from that case, that would be a new condition too.
Well, I think that they're still required to comply with signage requirements that were enacted.
Number
As long
30.
as that's
yeah,
covered
Number 30 in the original.
in the original.
Right.
So we don't need anything new. just-
They're not money.
I would draw a distinction between the permanent signage that's there that has tenant names on it versus what I would say are temporary leasing purpose signs or construction signs. And I know that our regulation probably govern the leasing signs as well, right? As far as sign size and how long they can be erected and where they can be.
Providing clarity in the PUD with a new condition would be the way to go, because then it would be clarity. Right now there's 3, maybe they reduce it down to 1 or 2, or whatever the board thinks. Maybe the board wants 4. I'm not serious about that, but if you put in a condition, it will provide clarity for that.
Does our zoning code have a standard for leasing signs now?
It does. There's a, what's in effect, and, when the PUD was approved back in 2000, so that would take research, or, maybe these signs have been in place, since have been installed after the code may have changed, and that would take research.
We're happy to make it, really have 2 leasing signs.
Oh, we had a condition, no more than 2 leasing signs, and I'd like to put some time limit
Yeah,
on it too.
in ground leasing signs.
So condition 39.
Yes.
We're setting the record here.
So no more than 2
leasing signs.
leasing signs of a temporary nature with, do you have a recommended time period, Mr. Friedman?
I'm sorry, you're saying in ground as opposed to in a window or something like that?
Yes, I'd like to limit it to like 90 days.
And
So there's an element of setback too. I haven't checked the setbacks on the current sign, but they may be close to 0. A lot of these new development signs, they are right on the right of way. That might be an element of the condition, if they can be put on the right of way, so long as they don't, I don't know where they are in relation to the right of way right now, but that's an element.
as it relates to the in-ground leasing signs, the proposal that no more than 2. Which is a suggestion of 90 days max. As good as they are and their brokers are, sometimes it takes a little bit longer than 90 days to lease commercial retail space.
And it's not uncommon to have.
As long as you have vacancies.
I would be agreeable to lengthening that, especially when you have so many, different potential spots or tenants.
It helps bring tenants to the space.
6 months. 6 months. If that.
6 months.
6 months.
180
I don't want them
days.
to be in perpetual signs like we have in some places.
How are we supposed to lease space if people don't know how to get it?
No more than 2 signs, so make one sign good.
It's a matter of 6 months, and in normal commercial operations, the shopping center has to have those signs so that people know to get in touch with the owner. And if there's a vacant space, we've got to put the signs up so they know who to call us, so tenants like homegrown.
Staff, I think, has made a suggestion earlier that it could be part of the monument sign that you have in place, which might be a different criteria then, since it wouldn't be temporary, it would be more of a permanent nature.
We have to just review the leases on pylon rights to see if we have a panel that doesn't have a right in the lease. If we have a vacant panel, then we can.
Maybe put it up there, that'd be permanent, or somewhat permanent.
Sorry, I brought it up.
No, being in the same business as the applicant,
Right.
I understand the issue. And yes, you need.
It just ends up
If we
being,
limit it to 1, it's then
We're good.
No, that's the whole point. We don't want a perpetual
Yeah,
or lease sign of that.
What about as long as there's vacant space? I mean, if it's full, they don't think it'd be a waste of time for somebody to call. Is that reasonable?
As long as it makes space.
Yeah.
I think there's a window signage option there, but once that street sign comes down, there's a punch on the window that says contact.
So condition, you want to leave it as is for 6 months, no more than 2 temporary signs for a 6-month period. If they can always take it up with the trustees.
Yeah, that's my preference. And I would have one other comment. It's not a condition now. Someone before raised the point, why can't there be a surveillance camera on the back of the building?
People, frankly, it's a liability issue. We talked to the commission, landlords, and kind of camera, somebody has to be monitoring that camera. And it's just not something we're able to do. Insurance company, which comes with any of our centers, it logically sounds like a really good idea, but then it creates a whole host of liability.
Are the cameras that are back there now tenant maintained?
Also, there are cameras.
Tenants have the right to install cameras, and they also monitor and whatnot, because the landlord does not monitor the.
But are there any cameras back there?
I
Surveillance
believe
cameras?
there are a few. I'm not sure exactly which tenants, but I believe we have a few back there. There's a few tenants that have opted to tear down.
Like there's a few cameras behind some of the tenants that see, like come down and you can see who's coming in and out, but there's not one like a 360 camera on that corner that could see could see up the access drive and then around, then, that detention basin. There's not like a 365 panorama camera back there that would see everything.
I have a quick question. The cameras that are installed from the police gain access, so if we call the police and they're chasing somebody from our backyard under there, is there a way that we could?
The police see a security camera that routinely asks
Correct.
for the ability to review.
They can ask the tenants.
Correct.
I'm
They-
so
they
soon
would-
police can get it.
It happens all the time.
Right.
Okay, anything else?
I have a quick clarifying question. Sorry, and I don't want to be here until 1 o'clock, so I'll make it quick. If all of this goes through, everything's good to go, we lease out unit B, which is the one in front of us. And then our landlord does the white spacing of the unit and we start doing construction. I'm thinking very logistically, but it's very relevant to the people in this room. With all of that being said, we then don't have a space to walk through anymore. Can we get that temporary agreement with everybody, temporary being the main word, that we can park in the back while the construction is going on in the front? Because my members can't walk through the front anymore. Does that make sense? Like they would not have access. Very temporary, but it's as long as the construction is.
We're not gonna
happening.
get into that tonight.
I'm not really doing it, so I don't know.
We're not getting into that tonight.
So I
We have a
just
certain, ma'am.
wanted to bring it up.
That's it?
Yep.
Anything else? And do you want to modify your,
Well, okay. I
or have
would-
Bill modify?
would move to amend my motion to consider the case, whose number escapes me right now.
2023-6.
2023-06 MA with the amended conditions as outlined by Mr. Means.
Second?
With the 39th one, I guess. we have it.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Roots, including that very nice condition of those documents. Correct. Anything else? Mr. Meach, you want to take the roll?
Sure. Ms. Flanagan.
Aye.
Mr. Barrett.
Aye.
Mr. Friedman.
Yes.
Mr. Roots.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well.
Okay. discuss the trustees when.
There's two potential dates and we're working with the applicant, August 29th or September 19th. Given the time parameters of our August 29th meeting, the September meeting is preferred, but the meeting will be September 19th. We'll kind of finalize the time given the length it took tonight, but we'll send out notices and it'll be September 19th. Right now it's to be determined. Township will post it on the website and put out notices, certainly. Yes. For any property it'll be September 19th.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
Oh, you're fun. I apologize. Certainly. Yeah. That sounds like right now, our position is to hold this in abeyance, because if we're, if we're gonna sue them and go to court, the judge is gonna look at it and say, they're gonna say, we're gonna go for a major investment case. So, the goal has been to bring it to this forum and
We still have a meeting to finish, so if you don't mind.
I think Mike Clark is up there. But it's been our concern.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay.
We all kind of stay in contact.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you. Yes,
Do
ma'am.
the trustees have anything to tell us?
I have nothing to report. We will not be having a September hearing because there were no cases submitted.
That's good. I'll be in Florida.
Any motion to adjourn?
Make a motion. I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
8:33.